Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punyashavana Kirtanaha Udayantasto hi Abhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsatam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 7, titled The Sacrifice Performed by Daksha, verses 1, 2, and 3. Text 1. Maitreya Uvacha Iti Ajenanu Nitena Bhavena Paritushyata Abhyadayi Mahabaho Prahasya Shruyatam Iti. Translation and purport. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The sage Maitreya said, O mighty armed Vidura, Lord Shiva, being thus pacified by the words of Lord Brahma, spoke as follows in answer to Lord Brahma's request. Text 2. Mahadeva Uvacha Nagam Prajesha Balanam Varnaye Nanu Chintaye Deva Maya Vibhutanam Dandastatra Druto Maya. Translation. Lord Shiva said, My dear father Brahma, I do not mind the offenses created by the demigods, because these demigods are childish and less intelligent. I do not take serious view of their offenses, and I have punished them only in order to right them. Purport. There are two types of punishment. One is that which a conqueror imposes out on enemy, and the other is like that a father imposes on his son. There is a gulf of difference between these two kinds of punishment. Lord Shiva is by nature a Vaishnava, a great devotee, and his name in this connection is Ashutosha. He is always satisfied, and therefore he did not become angry as if he were an enemy. He is not inimical to any living entity. Rather, he always wishes the welfare of all. Whenever he chastises a person, it is just like a father's punishment of his son. Lord Shiva is like a father because he never takes seriously any offenses by any living entities, especially the demigods. Verse 3. Prajapate Dagda Shirishno Bhavatvaja Mukam Shira Mitrasya Chakshushe Ksheta Bhagam Swam Barhiso Bhaga. Lord Shiva continued, since the head of Daksha has already been burned to ashes, he will have the head of a goat. The demigod known as Bhaga will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhaktamandam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I like to seek blessings from all the assembled Vaishnavas, and thank you for giving me this an opportunity to purify myself, and please forgive me for any shortcomings. So we are starting the uh, chapter 7, the sacrifice performed by Daksha. So in the first few verses, as Mataji explained, gave the overview yesterday. First few verses, Lord Shiva is replying to the Lord Brahma. So in the previous chapter, Brahma satisfies the Lord Shiva. Brahma, praises Lord Shiva. He approached Lord Shiva, along with all the priests and other others to please and get the forgiveness from Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma put forth some requests to Shiva. You destroyed everything, and please bring back the life of Daksha and revive the demigods. There are many injured, and he wants them to get recovered by his grace. And also he also says, you are the sacrificer of yajna, please take your share of oblations, and let the sacrifice be completed by your grace. So here you see, right, we hear that, in this age of Kali, chanting Nama Sankirtana is the only way and easiest way. And we usually hear that, doing, meditation in like a previous yuga or doing yajna, very difficult. But here we are real seeing the practical, when Daksha wanted to do, he invited everyone, and he still did a, mistake, or, disregarded, Shiva, and he got angry, and all this thing takes place. Now Brahma has to enter the scene. Brahma, along with all the priests, approach the Shiva and ask for the forgiveness. And if you look at all these things, how difficulty, and how much austerity and sincerity, and without making any errors, and one has to perform the yajna, then only one can get the benefit of real yajna. And ultimately, we have to sacrifice the yajna, or offer the yajna to the Supreme Lord. But this tells that, how hard and how much austerity and how much endeavor, and, finest things one has to care to to get the results of yajna. So as Lord Shiva, now as Brahma has, requested, and Lord Shiva is pleased by um, Brahma's words, and so now he's, on the request of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva is pacified by pacified, and is is saying the things now. So in the coming to the second verse, Lord Shiva is saying to Brahma that, I did not mind the offenses created by the demigods, and I don't take the serious view of their offenses. I have punished them uh, only in order to right them. So in the Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, there are two types of punishment. One is that, which conquers the imposes in an enemy. Another one is like a father who imposes his son. So there's a big difference between these two kinds of punishment. And in the material world, many times people are envious, people want to take a revenge, and people want to, don't take things very seriously in every instance, and people are not that big hearted. Even something happens in the families these days, you see the quarrels, between among the families and brothers or sisters within that. So the Kali Yuga effect is started. And here Lord Shiva is the, great Vaishnava, and his name is Ashutosha, one who is, easily satisfied, and also one who can become angry also. But here, as he wishes always the welfare of all the living entities, whenever he chastises a person, it is just like a father's punishment of his son. And here, Shiva acted like his father. Shiva acted like a father, and he didn't take the offenses created by them as any much seriously, especially the demigods. So here, it describes the, qualities of, real nature of Vaishnavas. It says, uh, Vajradapi Katorani Mrudoni Kusumadapi. So Vaishnavas are formed like a Vraja, the, Vajra, the weapons of God Indra, and is also very gentle, like a petals of lotus flower. So depending upon the situation, right, one, Vaishnava should act accordingly. It's not like he has to only forgive all the times, but there is also a, times where Vaishnava should chastise to correct the, situation. So, and here it also mentioned that in always the punishment is to be for the reformation, not just to punishment, give the punishment, get pleasure out of it, but the punishment should be, to reform the situation, or reform the person, and bring them back to the normal thing. So, and here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are full of examples, different examples in about this, how uh, how one is purified in the process of their, so. And um, and here, one why Vaishnava usually don't get disturbed, because Vaishnava has taken a shelter of lotus feet of Krishna, or lotus feet of Lord. So one who doesn't take a shelter in the higher transcendence, especially, it doesn't take a shelter in, Krishna or Krishna's holy name, that is when one can easily get disturbed. And I think a lot of us, we get carried away with the day-to-day life. We are get carried away with the things in office and all. But as long as we always remember Krishna, and we always think that uh, we are servant of Krishna. So everything is taken care. But we don't need to get disturbed by the turbulences or situation comes. Practicing our Krishna consciousness or leading our daily life. So. You know, even the Kulakshetra Alvar mentioned in one of his verses, you know, my friends may abandon me, my teachers or elders may denounce me, but the light of my life will always be Sri Govinda, the personification of divine ecstasy. So that is the real nature of Vaishnava, and with the practice and mercy of Krishna, I think hope we will also achieve that in this life. So, and that is the mood of Vaishnava. And and even Srila Prabhupada used to say, no one can harm you except yourself. Justification wise, sake one may say that because of this or that it happened, but it's all in our mind and how we take it. So most of everyone is envious in the material world, and Srila Prabhupada compares that, just like no one lights fire in the forest, which causes the fire, but you know, fire in the forest causes by the friction, or uh, so yes, same thing. If people are envious, with that envy, and if one interacts with another person, and it automatically creates the situation like a forest fire. So ultimate thing is to take a shelter, of the holy name, and how to surrender. And once one surrendered to the Krishna, then we can be also in a situation where we cannot easily get offended, and we can show compassion to the others. So in chapter 10, canto 10, there is a verse, tattenu kampam susamiksha mano. So there is a famous verse says that, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectable obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So in the purport, Sridhar Swami explains that, just as a legitimate son who simply remains alive, who remain alive to gain the inheritance from his father, similarly, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles, serving Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava nicely, you know automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of personality of Godhead. So in other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. So here you know susu Susa, Susamikshamana indicates that devotee waits, awaits the mercy of Supreme Lord even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. So in Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that devotee who fully surrender unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reaction of his previous karma. But however, because in his mind devotee may still maintain some remnants of previous sinful mentality, so the Lord removes that those last vestiges of this enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishment that may sometimes resembles sinful reactions. So this is very important point, because we always think that we only think about this life and last day or previous week, but we have taken so many lives, and we don't know how much karma we have accumulated, how much sinful activities we have accumulated over the time. So, and also many times people compare why it's happening to me only, as if we just started chanting, but because of our past karma and our tendency of previous sinful tendencies, we may still have to go through this some of the punishments or karmic reactions. And if you look at the Pandavas life and Kunti Devi, right? So when we take a shelter of Krishna, even though we have a tough situations, but Krishna will make us go through this easily, and we can come out of it uh, uh, with all our reactions burnt out, and we'll be advancing in our path to back home to the God. So the purpose of this entire creation is to creation by God is to rectify living entities tendency to enjoy without the Lord. So therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail that mentality that produce that activity in us. So there are in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, there are how talks about how what 6 divisions of surrenders, Anukulyasya Sankalpa, Pratikulyasya Varjanam, Rakshisyati Vishwaso, Gopartave Varanam Tata, Atma Nikshepa Karpane, Sadvida Sharanagati. So what are these 6 divisions of surrender? Acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, rejection of the unfavorable things, which are unfavorable to devotional service, and the conviction that Krishna is the only gives protection, and accepting the Lord as a one's guardian or master, and fully surrendering and being humble. So these are the 6 divisions of surrender. So by with this following these six, one can fully surrender to the Krishna, and that is the path of Sharanagati. So in coming to the third verse, here Lord Shiva started fulfilling the request of Lord Brahma partially. So Lord Shiva is continuing that, since the uh, head of Daksha has already been burned into the ashes. So now, Shiva bestows the head of uh, uh, bestows the Daksha with the head of the goat, and the demigod known as Bhaga, will be able to see share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. Here, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu gives in his summary that Shiva only fulfills the request of Lord Brahma partially. Here in the Daksha have a goat of a head because he had the words and intelligence of a goat, and Bhaga can see his portion of sacrifice with Mitra's eyes because his eyes were contaminated with the fault and devoid of spiritual vision. So in coming verses we can see how other things like Pusha and the demigods, how how their requests are fulfilled by Shiva. So in summary, Lord, as in the previous chapter, Lord Brahma requests Shiva to, Lord Brahma pacifies Shiva and asks the forgiveness on behalf of Daksha and priest, and asked to, bestow his mercy on them. So now Lord Shiva was, talking to Brahma, telling the Brahma that he did not take the things seriously, but I only punished them for only in order to write them. And in the third verse, head of the Daksha has already been burned into the ashes, so now he will have a head of a goat, and Bhaga will be able to see his share of sacrifice through the eyes of Mitra. With that, I can conclude. Please forgive me for any shortcomings. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha, krupa sindhubhya evacha